So our first speaker is Congressman Barry Loudermilk. Join me in welcoming Congressman Loudermilk to come to the stage.
Well, thank you, James. And those were awesome words about fighting. And one thing that you have to keep in mind a lot of times is the result of your victory doesn't come immediately. Sometimes God has some tribulation you need to go through to learn perseverance. What I want to talk to you about today, I won't be long. You got a long day ahead of you. I want to make sure that you get to the important business that you have at hand. But three things that I'm focused on right now in Congress, and then we'll talk quickly about the upcoming election and how important that is. You know, in 2016, when Trump came into the White House, very few people, especially in D.C., thought he was going to win. I was one of the exceptions. 6 months before the election, I told a group of business leaders in D.C. that Trump was going to win. I had no doubt about it. They actually told me I was crazy. 6 months after he was elected, they invited me back to the meeting and said, "How did you see this?" I said, "Well, I don't spend my life in Washington, D.C. I go home every weekend. When we're not in session, I'm back at home. And I see what a real America looks like." But because so few people expected him to win, and President Trump came in and he's never served in elected office before. He was a CEO, and he expected to come in and say, "This is what I want done." And every federal worker would line up behind him. But that didn't happen. And but what was different about this time? It took 2 years for the administration to get their legs under them, figure out the way things operate, and start cleaning things up. Last 2 years of the Trump presidency was, we got a lot done. This time, he's hit the ground running because he had 4 years to prepare for this moment. The House, Republicans in the House fully expected him to win, so we had 2 years that we were preparing for him to come in. And day one, he executed on that plan. He didn't wait any. And he had teams. I know this because I have been working with the Trump administration over the past 4 years very closely, or with his team, and we were putting things in place. And so he hits the ground running, and it leaves the Democrats in shock. I mean, they're literally in shock right now. So if you see, we have unity that we haven't had before in the House, and it's because of who's in the White House. You notice that we just extended the funding on the government. The only reason that passed with almost every Republican is because Donald Trump picked up the phone and he called every one of them. And he said, "You're going to get behind this." There's some things that we're working together on, and the reason I brought up the fighting, and you have to continue to fight, even if it doesn't look like victory is ahead of you, is for 6 years I have been fighting for something that is key and critical right now that we're about to move through the House, and the president is going to sign it. And I saw this just before Trump was elected the first time. And it's dealing with government reform, specifically some of the things that Trump is doing right now, and you're going to see all kind of lawsuits. You're already seeing those lawsuits. There's going to be more, but he took them by surprise. They can't even shop venues right now. They're just throwing out lawsuits. But one of the lawsuits, which I knew he was going to have trouble with, was the firings of multiple federal workers, which we need to reduce the workforce. However, the federal law is set up to protect non-performers. It takes over a year to fire someone properly. I found out about this from President Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security. My first year in Congress, I'm looking at their budget, and I see a line item of $385 million. It didn't make sense to me, so I asked Jay Johnson in a committee hearing, "What is this line item?" And he said, "Congressman, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's how much money I paid last year for Homeland Security employees to stay at home and not come to work." These employees had disciplinary issues where they had lost their security clearance. And when you don't have a security clearance, you can't even get in the building. And it takes 360 days just to process someone who's known to have done something bad. He said, then if they know how to game the system, which they all do, then they file an appeal right at the end of the first year, and they get another year. This was rampant. And so we started working on legislation called Merit. And it basically brings private industry standards into employment into the federal government. Instead of 360 days, you get 30 days to pack your bags and go. So when Trump started doing the mass firings, I told our staff, I said, look, the courts are going to kick that back because of merit. So we've started engaging with the Trump White House immediately. They're moving forward with this, and I'm anticipating before the summer is out, by summer, we'll move this out of the House, and it's over in the Senate, and I believe we can get it passed through the Senate. And one of the reasons I say this is this should be bipartisan because it was a Democrat who brought the problem to me. And we're starting to see America is on board of cleaning up our government and moving forward. So one of the top issues that we're working on right now, my staff is spending most of their time, is getting this bill passed because, as I've said all along, we can't clean up government till we get those out who are obstructionists. And that's what happened during Trump's first time. The other thing I'm working on, which I've been working on for about 6 years, is backing the federal government out of your back pocket and monitoring everything you're doing in finances. I've got several bills that, again, we've been working on for years, and we're starting to move them right now that will either reduce or totally eliminate the government spying on everything that you're doing financially. And so the Trump administration, they're fully behind me on that. The last thing that is our top 3 priorities is accountability. And many of you know that I've been working for the past couple of years on investigating what really happened on January 6th. And we put out some reports that revealed the corruption that exists and existed in several levels of government. Now we have a friendly administration. I should be able to get more information. The problem is my committee was disbanded. And we are right now, I'm on the phone daily with the president and his team on reestablishing it. But there are people in the government that do not want this to carry on. And quite frankly, I got close to some information that people didn't want me to get. And so not only has the committee been disbanded, most of the employees have had to take other jobs, and all the documents that I acquired are in control of somebody else. This is about to change. We've been working with the White House on this. There were some attempts to restart this committee that were shut down, but we're not going to stop fighting. If I have to continue the investigation on my own without a committee to do it, I'm going to do that. But I'm already working with Pam Bondi on some information. The FBI has already provided massive amounts of information on the pipe bombs. We're going to be working closely with Jim Jordan on this. And I anticipate within the next 30 days, we're going to be fully back up and operational, and we'll be moving at light speed because no longer do I have to fight opponents in these agencies to get the documents that actually belong to the House. And so we're already in conversation. We're working on these things. And look, if you don't hold people who have done wrong accountable, nothing will ever change. And so it has put a target on our back. It's put a target on my family's back, but I believe we're divinely protected. God has shown us time and time again through shootings and assassination attempts and being run over. I mean, he's showed time and time again that he's got protection as long as I keep my eye upon our cause, and that's what we're going to do. Now, this brings us up to the 26th election. When Donald Trump first got elected, we saw an immediate rise of groups like Resist and Indivisible, and they were targeting. I mean, we couldn't go anywhere. I'd have a fundraising event in Ackworth, and 150 people would show up protesting. They probably didn't even know my name. But we saw that happening. You haven't seen that yet, but it's coming. See, the Democrats are in shock. They anticipated Donald Trump would win, but they thought he would just pick up where he left off before, but he didn't. He came in with a complete agenda, and he is, as I told a reporter recently, look, the White House is running an overdrive, and in the House, we're still trying to get the car out of park, right? Well, the Democrats are even further behind the House. That's coming. So when it does come, it's going to come with a vengeance. Now, hopefully, with a lot of the stuff that Elon Musk is uncovering, which I had a nice long meeting with him just last week, and there's more coming, a lot of this money, I believe, is going to be tied back to Democratic funding. And if we can put a stop to that, they just won't outraise us every year that we go. And I've never figured that out. How can the majority of the people be with our agenda but spend all of this money? Well, George Soros is a part of it. Now we're finding out George Soros wasn't even spending his own money. It was government money that was being funneled through him. So now is the time to gear up for next year's election, not wait until 2026. That's why we're gearing up right now. We're coming out of the gate strong. We're doing our fundraising early this year because they are coming after everyone, and they're going to come with a vengeance. Now, this is why it's important to have good, strong leadership at all areas. Because when we start moving forward, we're unified more than we've ever been before. We have strong leadership in the White House. And this campaign season should start just like the Trump administration started, in full overdrive. That way the Democrats can't catch up with us anywhere. And I'm talking about at every election, from school board all the way up into Congress. We have we got a Senate election coming up, and I believe there's going to be a strong field. As soon as that primary is over with, we have to unify and get behind our candidate because it is critical. We can even grow the majority in the Senate, and we desperately need it. But those campaigns, just like we're starting our campaign right now, and you'll find out more events that we've got coming very soon, but we have to unify and be ready to fight. Thank you for having me here. I hope you have a wonderful convention. God bless our president, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Loudermilk.